Hello and welcome to the first talkie video of Vlogmas, aka my regular Thursday topical videos. Also, I'm a little weirdly sensitive. My son told me that he could see all my gray hair, and I'm like, "Nah." Anyway, whatever. This video, I got this comment. That was made before any of, well, I mean, the vlog was kind of planned. I do plan those like way early, believe it or not. Usually it's like August that I start planning. Um, and so I got this comment before the videos started going out, and it's just too perfect. So the comment is, since you travel a lot, please do a video on the illusion of the geographical cure. Which the other reason why I like it, other than because it's like, let's slot this right in and be perfect, is because I do have an original take on it. The geographical cure is that if you change your location, that everything's going to be so much better. And it's going to fix all your problems. All you need to do is move. If I lived where it was sunny, if I lived where it was less humid and cooler, if I lived where people spoke a different language, if I, lived near my people, if you lived here, if you lived there, that suddenly all of your problems would be resolved. People actually believe that a lot. It's the same similar sort of thought process. My very first video on this channel was about how ideation can give you some relief, that you can think, well, okay, this is terrible, but it's going to end. It's the same sort of thing. Okay, my life is terrible, but if I moved, everything would be great. Okay, that's the theory. And generally, yeah, it doesn't work. You can move, you can change the people you're hanging out with, you can do all this kind of stuff, and all of your problems are still going to be there. Even though you are physically moving, your problems will still be there. However, when you have avoidant personality disorder, it's not an absolute cut and dry, oh, that's a pipe dream, big deal. It's not always a pipe dream anyway. If you seriously think, do you hear this cat? If you seriously think that all you have to do is get in a car and move somewhere and then everything's going to be, easy peasy, yeah, that's a fantasy. But usually when you move, you also have to change your job. You have to change the people that you hang out with, etc., etc. And that is where it can really be a big help for somebody with avoidant personality disorder. I know a lot of people who think that, if you don't have to deal with your next door neighbor, then all your issues are going to be fine. My father was like that. My father blamed the neighbors for all of his issues. Blamed them for, he drank, blamed them because, he smoked because he had to, because they were so smelly. Retreated to our basement. He had a man cave way before man caves were a thing, because the neighbors were so intrusive and invasive to him. They wanted nothing to do with him. It was complete hogwash. He just hated his life and wanted to be left alone. Did he probably have a personality disorder? Conceivably, very conceivably, same as my mother, and it is super common for people with personality disorders to find each other. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Whatever. Don't really care. Didn't get a diagnosis, and now he's not able to get one because he's no longer alive. But still, I mean, yeah, he believed that wholly. And if he couldn't move, then he would buy a brand new car. Same thing, because, it was going to change everything. Just having a new, even though he got a brand new car last year, if he gets a brand new car this year, everything's going to change. Because I don't know. That means that his boss is going to look at him driving a fancy new car and say, "Oh, wow, you definitely need a raise." All his medical problems are going to be resolved because, he's driving a cool car. It's the same kind of thing. People think about this about moving, but if you have avoidant personality disorder, there's a couple things that moving really, it's like a shortcut. Now, do I think everybody should be moving? No. No, I mean, I did it twice where I did a huge, massive, major move, permanent move. First I moved to Philadelphia and then I moved back to Maine. And in both cases, it took me, and I think I'm fairly extroverted for having avoidant personality disorder. I'm definitely like the ambivert type. And I mean, I was down for the count for a couple months, at least, in both of those cases. Probably more than a couple months, probably like 3 to 4 months. It took me to settle in. I moved to Philadelphia to go to college. I moved there early because I was in the process of convincing myself to chicken out. And I was like, okay, if I don't hurry up and go and move there and be there, I'm going to find an excuse not to just not go. So I went early. When I came back to Maine, my son was nearly 2 years old. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't really care. It was inconceivable that I was going to stay in Philadelphia at all anymore. Things were going in a very bad direction. I was getting more and more isolated, and that is not what you need to do when you have a kid. And I was, yeah, I just need to cut ties from everything. And I didn't have anything that was really keeping me there. So, all positive away from all negative. And again, usually when you have avoidant personality disorder, you need to have something really, really nasty. The stress of the change, the stress of sticking up for yourself has to be somehow way less than the stress of just sucking it up and continuing to do the same thing you've been doing. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot for somebody to get to the point where they got to make a massive change like that. And in both cases, yeah, that was it. I mean, well, when I moved to Philadelphia, it was definitely like a positive thing. It's like, I'm going to go do this thing, go to school, be the person that I've always wanted to be. I mean, it was a very powerfully positive motivator. And leaving, um, it, I was avoiding negative to the point where it was positive. That I could see good things happening, even though I was going like from the pot into the fire, because I was getting closer. I mean, one of the best things about leaving was getting away from my family, and then, which didn't really work because I left and my parents got divorced, which was of course my fault because I left. So obviously they had to get divorced because it was my fault. I wasn't there to keep them stuck together, so it was my fault they got divorced. I swear to God, this is what they would tell me. And then my mother didn't have any plans, so she was basically homeless and decided, oh, I have a couch. She'll move in with me. Out of the blue, just showed up one day and said, I live here now. And I didn't have sort of the self-authority to say, yeah, I don't think so, lady, go. I didn't think she was going to stay as long as she did. And I didn't think she was going to cause as much havoc as she did. And I didn't think that she was going to leave as abruptly as she did, because I wasn't paying her enough attention, and she wanted to make sure that I needed to pay attention to the fact that she left. So she left in a hurry. My father did the same thing to my sister. I mean, I got out of it. My father literally got in a fist fight with his son-in-law and then abandoned the family after they had an arrangement with him that he was going to be doing like a certain amount of babysitting their kids in order to make up for the room and board, because he was, again, just living with them without paying for anything and making himself the center of the attention. I mean, considering how radically different my parents were, my mother was bombastic and in your face and loud and obnoxious, and my father was as quiet as a mouse, and yet both of them insisted on being the center of attention and did everything they could to be the center of attention, whether they were present or not. They made sure they were the ones that everybody was paying attention to. Anyway, how about we get back on track here? And that is the type of dynamic that the moving can help with. Now, first of all, if you're just straight up still being abused by whoever caused you to get avoidant personality disorder, then moving away from them. I mean, I understand that now, super connected. Everybody has phones. Everybody has, I mean, I don't know. Everybody basically has 24/7 access. If you're living right by somebody, if they're like, my parents would concoct these crazy scenarios where I absolutely had to run in and help them and save them. And I mean, I was utterly incompetent. I couldn't actually do anything, but damn straight, I had to be there as a body, at least, if for nothing else, for them to have something to use as a lightning rod for all their emotions, so that they would not yell at somebody who was trying to actually help them. You know what I mean? I bet, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that know exactly what I'm talking about here. Anyway, so if you're getting away from the people who have turned you avoidant, then that is completely super mega awesome. And as much stress as it's going to be in your life to have this massive change of a move and a new job and all this other thing, the stress of that is going to be so offset by not having the burden of the abuser in your family. I mean, that is going to be such a huge, wonderful change in your life that it's not a cure, but it's going to open up a massive amount of psychic energy. And so you'll be able to do so much more. You can make so much more progress so much quicker. The fact is, you can you can block people, and you can also not notice the call or whatever until later. You can have a special ringer on your phone so that you know exactly who is calling. So you can decide, do you want to interact with this person or not? And it is so much easier when you're not in the same house, when you're not, like, seriously, the threat that my mother would get in a car and just show up at my house was enough to keep me in line, because, oh my God, to have her at any time, she would threaten to sue me for quote unquote grandparents' rights if I didn't interact with her. You know, it was grandparents' right for the grandchild, but she wanted nothing to do with my kid as a little kid. She just wanted access to me. And if I didn't do what she told me to do, she was going to sue me. Yeah. I've also had her do wellness checks on me, like send the police to my house to check and see if I'm all right, because I didn't answer her phone call. Almost got herself arrested for that one, misusing police. But she would do that. My father ended up having Alzheimer's, and he would call and call and call and call and call and call and call because he forgot that he just called. They were unbelievably draining. To the point where I did marathon running just so that I would have an hour training block at least every other day, where I had a really good excuse not to have my phone on me, which is kind of stupid, actually. You should definitely have a way of contacting someone if you injure yourself or get attacked or whatever. But to me, it was like, okay, this is the time when finally I don't get to be harassed by them. I mean, and that is kind of a geographical. Can't talk. Still too tired. You keep watching the videos, you'll see why I'm exhausted at the moment. Anyway, that's definitely geographical, because I would be outside, away from my normal place where I was at, where I was able to be harassed and found out by people. So that's number one, is that you can definitely get away. Number two is, I talked before that making a big change is like walking through a field of lava to the other side. The thing is this: once you get going and you have the momentum, the other changes, either they're absolutely totally necessary. I mean, if you are in a different place, then you can't just go to the same store all the time, because the store, the safe store, is however many miles away. You can't just drop in and do that. You've got to find a new place. You have to see new people. You have to interact with new people. I mean, it sounds terrible and horrible. And again, it took at least 3 months each time for me to get my sea legs in a new place, to, find another job and do all the things that you need to do, because it was so much stress. But the thing was, again, I had it's not like, it's hard to explain. It's not like you have, say, a pie chart amount of stress you can handle in your life. It does build, and having this massive shock to the system of moving, compounded with being absolutely necessary for you to do these new things, it just makes it easier to do these new things, like get a new job, or find a new way of existing, or even find a new place to live, or whatever it is you're doing. These are things that normally would just like destroy somebody with avoidant personality disorder. The idea of getting a new job, because it's, no, no, no. But if you have to do it, you will do it. And chances are excellent that, again, because somebody with avoidant personality disorder, they're not going to do something unless they know for sure that it is going to improve their life. I mean, it's one thing if somebody does something to you. You get served with divorce papers, yeah, you probably will have a little bit harder time dealing with that than, say, getting into college and going across the country for that. Same amount of stress. And again, once you've sort of reached the threshold, it's not like they build and compile on top of each other. It's more like It's more like it like oozes out. And so you've got the stress dripping, and instead of piling up like this, it sort of spreads. And so it's the same sort of thickness wherever you go. So it's just easier. You're used to dealing with this much stress. So if over here to do this other change, this much stress, you don't have to have this massive lead up. You already know you can handle it. So maybe you take a big deep breath and do it, but it's a lot easier to make a massive change when you've already made a massive change. I don't know if this is making any sense at all. I feel like I'm talking in circles, and I feel like I'm not finding the right words to describe what I'm saying, but it's true. Once you have done a massive, huge change, then doing another massive, huge change that's on the same level, it's like you don't have to get up to that level and then do it. You're already there. So then you can just jump over. It's still a lot of stress, but you just do these jumps and do these jumps. So again, for avoidant personality disorder people, if you move, which it takes a huge amount, and you basically, you've got to say, my life is total dumpster fire, and it's intolerable. I can't do this anymore. So in a lot of cases, I think, again, the sort of, the thing that would tip the balance is how close you are and how much you have to interact with the people who put you on the path in the first place, the abusive people in your life. Because again, taking that down, getting that out of your life is going to make it easier to make these little jumps. And moving is hugely massively stressful, but unless what you're trying to do is, say, go to another country where you've got a 6-month visa and you've got to hit the ground running to try to extend that visa, or something like that, where, or you're moving to a place, and I mean, seriously, okay, so I had a lot of fun, we'll call it fun, trying to find the place where I live now, because I last time I moved, the house I was living in was sold. And so they were like, yeah, you got to get out. And at the time it was mid-pandemic, and housing was just impossible to find. And I found a place. It was like, I'm gonna move it. And then I realized, I didn't say anything about it. I realized afterward, oh, this is a summer place. And it was winter, and they were only going to have me sign, I think it was a 7-month lease. And then I would so basically it wouldn't have stopped. And it would have had another immediate deadline of, took me forever to find a new place to live. And then I'm going to immediately have to find a new place to live. And guess what? If somehow I found it early, I would have to pay double rent. I would have to fulfill my original contract and then have the chances of being able to get rid of, the first one and then find the second one and have them align at like the exact same month, chances are extremely tiny. Because I don't live in a place where there's a lot of places where it seems like everybody moves at the certain time, and it isn't like certain people might have, a lease that runs out in February and then May and then July or something like that. It's like everybody, the leases just sync up and everybody has to go at the same time. It's not like that. And since there's no sync up, chances are very good that either there would be a month-long gap where I'm homeless, months-long gap where I'm homeless, or I would have to double up and pay double rent. Thankfully, I noticed that before I moved in there, and I was like, okay, you know what? I would rather I'd rather hold out for a place where I can stay. that would be a pretty negative thing to do. Is so if you're doing something like that, um, that would be stress on stress on stress. That would be too much stress, where the moving would maybe cause more stress that rather than relieve your stress. That would not be good. But if you're literally just going, from one stable housing situation to another stable housing situation, once you get there, it will take a little bit of time, and then you will be like, be able to breathe. And at that point, again, you're already will be at this level of stress. You're already here. So jumping over here to make whatever the next change is in your life is going to be relatively easy because you're already up there. You don't have to move yourself up there to get over there to do the jump. You're already up there. So for those reasons, I think that moving actually can be a really good, excellent first step in taking over your life as a person with avoidant personality disorder and trying to find a way to make your life work for you. Because you're giving yourself physical distance from your abusers, and you're sort of priming your stress level. So you're already going to be stressed to the point where you can make these changes rather than having to sit there and wait until your situation is so bad that you can make the change that you need to make. Your coworkers are just driving you absolutely zonkers, and so you have to leave. Well, you know what? You don't have to wait until they get to the point where you feel like the end is nigh. You don't have to wait that long because you're moving. You see what I mean? See how that works? So again, it is a myth that just moving is going to make your life so much better. This is unlikely unless you also have won like massive lottery so that your life can be as perfect as you would want it to be. Unless that's part of the move, it's yeah, on the move on its own is not going to do anything. But all the things that come along with it can make your life better. Even though, so it's sort of like, okay, so we got all these levels. Let's say you're here and you're moving, massive stress, but you don't have your abuser, and you have a better job that's better suited to you because you actually had the time to look for a job because you weren't in a job and then trying to get up the gumption to go look for a job while you were already working. You're not working because you're in a different situation. You have all that time. Maybe meet a new person who you can at least be like acquaintance friendly with, and they won't know your past. They won't know how awkward you are. They won't know. They won't be able to run into somebody who's going to like out you for being a weirdo or whatever. You can just kind of be yourself and not be looking over your shoulder, which means that you'll be more likely to interact and be able to meet somebody and have an interesting time with them. Um, and again, for a lot of people who have avoidant personality disorder, just having a decent acquaintance can make a huge difference. It's scary having somebody sort of being able to track your moves and know what you're up to, even in a very small way. Even if it's just, okay, well, you normally go grocery shopping on Mondays, you might be late to shop and you go on a Tuesday and might have to hear, oh, I didn't see you yesterday or something, and it will make everything in you be weird. But then again, that means somebody's sort of aware of you, and that kind of feels good. You see what I mean? And if you can do that without somebody going, remember how this person was 10 years ago, it's a blank slate. So yeah, I think I've gotten to the point where I would start repeating myself if I haven't already. But I do have a different take on it, that just moving doesn't do anything. Just moving and upgrading your life and who you interact with is going to make a difference that could very well end up with a net positive. Anyway, that's my take on that. And see you tomorrow with more of the, I guess, regular Vlogmas for this year type videos. Bye.